This video is going to show you the basics of women's lacrosse, and it's going to have a few different things about men's lacrosse in it as well. There are 4 different positions on the women's lacrosse field. The first position is goalie. You can see in the first picture a goalie stick. They have bigger heads because the job of the goalie is to save the balls and protect the goal. The other 3 positions are defense, midfield, and attack. The second picture shows the sticks that is used by those field players. The job of the defenders is to protect the goalie and to keep the other team from scoring on the goal. The job of the attackers is to get the ball in the back of the net. Every time they get the ball at the back of the net, it's a point for the team that scores. The midfielders play both defense and attack. They run back and forth on the field depending on where the ball is. They are also in charge of taking the draw. The draw is what starts the game and what starts the game back into play after a goal is scored on either team. The last picture on this slide shows the different balls that are used in a boys and a girls game. The first picture is the girls' balls. They are yellow and orange, and the second picture is a boys' ball, and it's always white. This is what's worn on players during the games. The first arrow is pointing to goggles, which is only worn by women. Men wear helmets. The second arrow is pointing to the mouth guard, which is worn by men and women. And the last arrow is pointing to her cleats, which are also worn by men and women. If you see a men's game, they also wear helmets, elbow pads, gloves, shoulder pads, chest protectors, and everything else is the same. When you're catching, you want to make sure that you have your dominant hand on top and your non-dominant hand on the bottom. The picture on this slide shows you where your hand should be on the stick. When you get the ball passed to you, you want to make sure you have soft hands and give into the ball so that the ball stays in your net. The next video shows an example of me catching a ball.
Okay, so for catching balls, you want to have your non-dom hand on the bottom and your dominant hand on the middle of your stick. When they pass you the ball, you want to give. Okay.
Now when you're throwing, it's similar to catching. You have your dominant hand on the top and your non-dominant hand on the bottom. On this slide, you can see that the arrows are pointing to where your hand should be. Your top hand should be almost on the middle of the stick, and your bottom hand should be at the bottom. When you pass, you want to step with the opposite foot than the hand that's on the top of the stick, and this will help you get extra power. The video will show you an example of this. Also, when you're passing, you want to make sure you follow all the way through, and your stick should almost hit the ground when you're done.
This is how you pass the ball. You want your non-dom hand on the bottom and your dominant hand in the middle of the stick, and you want to step with your opposite foot and follow all the way through.
Scooping is used when the ball ends up on the ground during the game. This is how you pick the ball back up and get the ball back into play. The picture on this slide shows you where your hand should be when you're picking up a ground ball. You also want to make sure that your body gets super low to the ground so that it's easier to pick the ball up. The next video shows an example of me picking up a ground ball and how low you should get when performing this skill.
Okay, so for ground balls, you want to have your non-dominant hand at the bottom of your stick and your dominant hand at the top. You want to make sure you run forward and get your booty all the way down and scoop it up like this. Now I'm going to throw in a hope for another example. Just like that.
Shooting is done when you're trying to score a goal. When you're shooting, you want to make sure that your dominant hand is on the top and your non-dominant hand is on the bottom. In the picture, you can see arrows pointing to where they should be. Your top hand should be a little lower than middle, and your bottom hand should be at the very bottom of the stick. When you're shooting, it's like passing. You want to make sure you're stepping with your opposite foot than that's on the top of the stick. You also want to make sure that your feet are moving the entire time and that you actually aim. When you're shooting, there will be a goalie in the goal, so the best places to shoot are any of the 4 corners. This video shows Hope shooting a ball and following all the way through with her stick and continuing to move her feet.
Okay, so for shooting, we're going to watch Hope do it. She's going to have her non-dom hand on the bottom of her stick and her dominant hand a little lower than the middle. When she steps, she's going to step with her opposite foot to drive power forward. When she shoots, she follows all the way through. I was like this.
This video shows Mia playing wall ball, and it's a great way to work on all of your lacrosse skills.